Good evening, Vigo's Court. I am your judge today, Judge Shep. I am joined today by Counselor Q.
What it do? What it do? What a way to wind down week number 7 here.
Absolutely. We are going to be winding down week 7 with Hex Girls versus 6-2. Teams who have had really strong showings our entire season, really. 6, I think,
Just took their first
just
loss
took their
last
first
week.
loss. Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna say, I think they just took their first
2
loss.
weeks ago, but last week on the schedule. Right.
In week 6.
Yes.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, 6 lost in week
6 took a
6.
loss in week 6.
It's almost demonic, really. We're not
Woman.
going to talk about it anyways, chat. So we're actually going to move past that.
Moving on.
But
Onward.
what's going to be interesting is we are going to be on a map that we've seen some exciting trials on thus far in this season, but it's definitely not your typical competitive map, right?
Absolutely. Today, you guys, we are going to Temple of Purgation, a map I love to watch games on, but hate to play on. It has an 8-hook minimum and a 13-hook maximum, so lots of hooks for our killers to play with, but again, it is a lot of space. This is a very large map.
Yeah, a very large map indeed, and not only do you have quite a few of your typical tiles that can spawn in, whether they be your jungle gyms, 4 lanes, whatever, but even some of the what are kind of considered filler palettes in between can turn into like very, very strong loops to where like you basically have to break the palette. You can't play around them.
Oh yeah, you get some of those like those weird walls in like the off areas where they're the short walls, but they're really long.
Mm-hmm.
Short in height, long in like length. And if you get a pallet in between two of those are really, really strong, and they kind of force the killer to break, which usually they either chain into another tile jungle gym or they chain straight into the main building.
Right. So there are areas that like you can usually get a couple of rotations around most of the time in chase, unless you already have a very narrow gap between you and the killer when you're heading into those areas, which can cause for some prolonged chases. So I think killer choice here is very interesting, and unfortunately, with this being Hex Girl's home map, some of the killers that do make sense on this map, they have already used, right? Like a Billy can use their mobility and do well. And I mean, we saw Gramps have a 12-hook Billy on this map. I think that was like week 4, week 5, a couple weeks ago. But you know, and I think they've used I think they've used one of their Huntresses as well. And both of them are killers I think would be probably at the top of my list as far as what they might want to pull out here.
Yeah, you'd really think that they might want to bring out a high mobility killer here. Unfortunately, they have used up all of their uses abilities, so that's kind of off the table for them. I think they've used one of their spirits, maybe, I think just one of their spirits, but Spirit could work here with the speed from her phasing. I think Blight's Collision is a little wonky on this map, so I don't know if he's a good option.
Yeah, I feel like we have seen Blight brought out once or twice by visiting teams, I want to say, during the season thus far, and generally Blight does struggle, especially around some of those longer tiles that we were kind of talking about that are in between the generic tiles and the mid building. There can kind of be some rough collision points for some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, I mean, this is a great map for Nurse, but is this a game that you burn Nurse in, you know? Or not burn Nurse in, but use Nurse in?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like we talked about in the matchup earlier today, right? Like this, we saw a Blight get brought out, but then you don't get like the full value of your Blight. That's kind of the same conversation that you would have about potentially, I would say, bringing in a Nurse here, because a Nurse does give you the ability to not have to worry about the long time to protect the bottom mid-gen that's actually in the temple itself. Obviously, you just blink right there. You also have the ability to traverse the map pretty well as well. But yeah, I don't know if at this point in the season, either team is like in a super rush to burn the last bit of their S tier selections that are left. Sorry.
Yeah, so it's gonna be rough to see, rough for these teams kind of dealing with the limited killer usages here and trying to figure out what they're gonna play, getting around that. Because this is such a specific map. I feel like very few things work well here from
Yeah,
the start.
I mean, so if you are, so I think this is one of the things that's interesting because I think Hex Girls probably have a better guess about what Six will probably bring in, just because I feel like they've seen a good amount of like 2 or 3 killers thus far, because it is a big map, right? Like it kind of takes a special kind
Yeah.
of killer to be able to put down some points here, so they probably know what to expect. But I think what's going to be tough here is for Six, knowing that some of the better options, you know, Hex Girls might not want to use them up yet, so you've kind of got some other options on the table.
Yeah, definitely. Gonna be really interesting to see what they decide to pick. I think another one that we didn't really talk about, but that we have seen rather recently actually, Demogorgon might be a good pick on this map too.
Yeah, Demogorgon's one of those that can allow you to try and find some early chase, but still be able to give yourself a little bit of setup through the mid portion of the game. Could give you some options. I also wonder, because of how much of a pain in the rear some of the palettes are, what do you think about the thoughts of us seeing a Bubba on this?
I don't think this is a terrible map for Bubba. Not my first choice for him. I have seen Bubba's played on this map in a comp setting before.
So I feel like if that's the case, you just probably do the let me get it down, let me secure an early elimination, and aim to get an elimination in end game, basically, right?
Yeah, Bubba, I feel like it's kind of a pick of like, okay, well, I'm probably gonna get maybe like a 2K.
Right.
But that's not who you pull out if you need to gain any ground in any sort of way.
Yeah, I just don't. It's going to be interesting because this is I think the dynamic and the whole aspect of what we do here at Vigos that really like intrigues me, since we are especially not always on the same maps here today. You know, we're on Temple of Purgation again for anybody who might just be tuning in. But also, like, since you can only use a killer twice over the course of the season, there becomes a little bit of strategic decision making in the fact of what maps do I want to use, what killers on against what teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the benefit that we do have is that every team does have a set map that they play on. So teams can kind of plan their entire season and adjust as necessary around, okay, well, what map are we going to? What killers do we have that are available that work for those maps? So knowing that, I mean, if they did any prep in the beginning of their season, knowing that they're coming to Temple of Purgation, maybe our teams have an idea of kind of like what is going to work and what isn't going to work for them. I mean, I would hope by this point that they might have an idea.
I think that's probably why you'll see I think you will see, I should say, Hex Girls are going to be probably more prepared for Six's killers, because Six probably only had like 1 of 3 killers in mind at the beginning of the seasons, where obviously Hex Girls has had to play here multiple times. So you kind of have to figure out some new strategies for some different killers.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be interesting to see, again, what they pull out. But it does look like everyone is ready, so we can figure out pretty quickly here who is going to bring what.
And yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be I like it that at this point, especially because, you know, Hex Girls is kind of at this point where you can still make yourself a playoff push. I wouldn't say quite in the same position as Outlaws of the Fog wasn't earlier, where like you really, really, really needed the win. But like, if you lose today, then that's the last loss you could probably take of the season if you're Hex Girls here today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. And I do want to say, like, compared to our earlier match, it's kind of interesting that this is like the opposite. Like, it's hard to say who they're going to play because they are so limited here, as opposed to ARP, where you can kind of play anything on that map.
But while we load in here, let's talk about how Six is going to be able to put those points on the board on the killer side.
Let's talk about it. All right, guys, how do our killers get those points? Well, of course, those hooks. Your third hook is going to be the most important, so you want to make sure you get those people to death hook Progressions, however, are worth 1 less, so don't get them to Death Hook by camping if you can help it. The 7th and 8th progression are going to be worth 1 point each regardless. A 4K is going to be an extra 2 points. So you want to get those extra points, especially if you want to get a good lead here. The entity kill is going to be the corresponding hook plus progressions, as well. Mori's run by the same rules. However, if you down somebody and you lose them, they crawl away, or you just kind of like leave them there because you get preoccupied elsewhere and they bleed out, you get 0 points for that. So maybe don't do that. There are 30 points available for our teams to earn here on the killer side. For more on Rostock, ! Rules in chat.
All right, let's go ahead and take another trip back into the fog. And I think you had mentioned the possibility of seeing this killer with the high mobility here. We're actually going to see the Spirit. Of course, you know, we did see Spirit come out yesterday on Thompson House. I know you had said gave you a little bit of a sense of life for faith for the Spirit. So we'll see here. We are going to see, though, as we do push 2 survivors off of this generator, we are going to notice the sparks flying off the gen. That is going to be from the Ruin there, helping in the early portion of the trial here with Corrupt Intervention. The question's going to be how long ooh, Gramps taking a nice protection hit here, actually able to take the body block for the hit there, prolonging this chase. Now going to, oh, plus 10 wood to the face as well, causing a little bit of an extra time for some distance. But now it does actually look like Bear is going to go ahead and break chase. Now moving on to Gramps here. Gramps, though, with the nice play at the pallet, able to drop that, not able to get the stun, but still able to make some distance.
A little bit of a come hither way from Gramps too, which we have seen from Gramps multiple times. It's interesting to see Bear play a Spirit here, knowing that in the week 6 match, Hex Girls also played a Spirit.
And we are going to see here Gramps going on a good run. Again, another plus 10 wood to the face there from that pallet. At this point, we do have about 15 seconds left on that Corrupt Intervention, which does mean we've been in this trial for quite some time. And we have yet to see a gen, which I wouldn't be surprised would mean that we have a couple of generators getting close. We do see the deadlock here on this gen that this ace was actually working on. We can hear it has quite a bit of progress on it as well. So right now getting covered up, potentially going to see a nice little combo of deadlock and ruin. Unfortunately, I'm not sure Vader's here to be able to see the deadlock value here once again. But at this point, continuing our chase, able to get the down onto Jade. But the question is, how close do we have another gen to popping? Because it's been quite a bit of time here.
Yeah, we have seen, I think we've actually had eyes on every survivor thus far in the game, but we do see 2 generators pop, and this is only going to be our first hook, despite getting quite a few injured states down. So our survivors doing a really good job of rotating in and out who's in chase when.
And do keep in mind that is going to have actually been the gen that was covered by the deadlock initially, pretty much as soon as it got uncovered. Really good communication by our survivors to be able to actually move in and finish that gen there. It was probably this Nia, if I had to take a guess. Nia now using Sprint Burst to build a little bit of distance. Should be able to get the save here without the risk of the grab because of the impatience here by Bear. Actually might have been able to get a grab, but instead going to go for the 1-for-1 here. Just going to go ahead and let Jade, or Eternal Jade, go ahead and build that distance. That is going to be hook number 1 onto Irodori, and that is going to be our second hook thus far in the game, and still only 2 generators complete.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel some of the pressure here. I'm sure on the survivor side, they still have 2 fresh hook survivors. Of course, there are only 2 hook states on the board, but this is a point where the game could start getting really nasty.
Especially because we do notice that the Ruin is still up. And yeah, sometimes we do see where the Ruin can still just end up being, you know, you can just grind those generators to it and still pump those things out. But of course, Spirit does have the ability to put a lot of pressure down very, very quickly. Here's another down onto Eternal Jade. That will be hook number 2 onto Eternal Jade. We do still also have Irodori across the map somewhere, not going to be able to be healed for a little bit of time here. You also have another survivor somewhere in the map right now that is also injured. So some potential snowball ability here, especially because we have been able to track down, I believe this is Irodori back here in the corner, and I believe we should be getting relatively close to the decisive strike counter being out if she does indeed have it. Got to imagine that with the Deliverance, you probably had a decisive strike combo, but instead I'm not sure if maybe that was a missed decisive strike or if it just ran out, but that is going to be a second hook there.
Yeah, and this rune is doing quite a bit of work for our killer here. I think we've not been. I think this entire time we've been chasing survivors off of generators or putting them on hooks. So, uh, ruin could prove really detrimental to our survivors here if they don't get it taken care of soon.
Especially because it is in a portion of the map that will probably not be used too much right now. We notice that it's not as far as in the generator area right now, which is kind of big because right now you are probably going to be seeing 2 survivors need to move in for the safe if that is indeed what they are doing. Actually, we are going to see a gen getting complete across the way. That's also going to lock our survivors here into a relatively tight 3-gen spawn. Not the tightest I've seen on this map, but it a relatively decent 3-gen spawn. And it does actually look like this is going to be Iridori just being forced into the elimination stage here.
Yeah, Bear going ahead and confirming that kill, which does change the game for our survivors, and not a nice position to be in. Like you said, we do have a 3-gen here with only 3 survivors left. That is one less bit of pressure that they're going to be able to put down here.
There's no progress on any gens right now, and there's still ruins up. This is gonna be really, really bad actually for our survivors. We do see that it is the ace here trying to take the chase, and actually I believe it is the ace that is on death hook as well, if I am not mistaken. That would move this thing down to a 2v1 if my math and my memory served me correct there, which could be very big, but instead we do see Bear breaking chase. I like this play because, of course, you do still have that ruin value. So if you can come over here, push these survivors off of these generators, it will start regressing them back from the little bit of progress that they do currently have. The little bit of bad news here is we do still have a pallet up right here. Gramps is going to be throwing it right at Bear. Bear is going to go right into that phase for him here, looking to try to make the mind game around the pallet. The question is, do we get the mind game here? It actually looks like a really nice play by Gramps.
Gramps has proven that he's a very strong looper, so this is probably the survivor that Hex Girls wants to see taking this chase so that our other 2 survivors can try to get some work put down on those generators.
Yeah, and I think this decision that we're seeing from Bear here is definitely the right one. Breaking our chase, we already see our survivors breaking away from this generator right here. Probably had, I think, might have had both of our survivors on it, quite frankly, because you can see a lot of progress on that, and it's actually going to be the Quentin, the one fully healthy survivor. We are going to see a relatively quick reset onto Gramps. I'm not sure if that was the 2 of them getting together, or I can't remember if Gramps had the med kit or not, but really nice play by Bear here, coming back in a really good dead hard by Eternal Jade to be able to make the distance for the vault into the shack itself. However, shack pallet has already been thrown. Limited resources back here in this corner. Things could be getting sticky here relatively quick.
Yeah, not a very comfortable position to be in. We will find Jade in that locker, which is going to be really unfortunate. Is that elimination? Yes, that is an elimination. So now we only have 2 survivors left. And Bear kind of been going with the strategy of push them off the generator, injure them, and force them to either reset and drag the game out or try to do these gens while injured, which will just give Bear more of an advantage.
And this is tough because I do believe actually the generator that we were just by is the one that has the most progress on it. In the trial at this point in time, it looks like we've got a sound notification downstairs. If I had to guess, that is probably going to be the survivor that is looking for a rune. Probably was trying to find the rune that might be on the backside there. Maybe just happened to, I'm not sure if there's a vault down there or something, but that does mean that there is probably nobody on a gen currently. And that down onto Gramps is going to be hook number 1, which means you do have some hang time to be able to look for your 4th and final survivor.
It does look like Bear is going to make the decision. I don't know if you saw something that I didn't, but Bear's going to go ahead and go check on those generators, knowing that we had a lot of progress over here.
Yeah, I think your thought process here from Bear was to come over here and check this one in this corner, thinking that you had some time, and maybe didn't quite see where the sound notification was and was wondering maybe that was from a missed skill check on the generator that had a lot of progress at it at one point. But here at this point, I would not be surprised to see Bear go ahead and go back for Gramps here. Again, knowing that you do have 6 hook states and 2 eliminations. So that means both of your survivors currently in the trial are both fresh hook, which means if you put Gramps up on hook, they aren't going to be able to, you still have some time for them to hang before you even have to worry about a hatch play.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm Bear, I would just go ahead and pick up Gramps, especially because on Temple, this is a large map. Gramps could just very easily be lost. Um, and Bear is risking a lot of points here to a bleed out if he gets to the point where he can't find Gramps.
Agreed, because then just imagine you have a bleed out, and then even on top of that, a potential hatch play, really putting a lot of points at risk here. So now at this point, going to be seeing Bear breaking away with that phase walk, checking in on these generators again. Nothing going on this backside where you have the two generators together. I really feel like our play here is definitely going to be to come over here and find your hook. But hopefully at this point, Gramps hasn't been able to stray too far away.
Yeah, if I was Gramps, I would be crawling as far as I
Back right.
could. And it does look like Gramps did do that, so going to be a little bit of a trial to try to find him here.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Bear heard Gramps back where we heard Gramps, because I think I have a general idea of where Gramps is. I think at this point, Bear is just trying to ensure that they're going to keep a auditory location on Gramps until they get closer until the bleed out. And then at that point, you can start your 2-minute countdown with the actual hook itself. There is Gramps there, and I do see moving back and forth. Not sure if maybe they were able to actually get a location on the hex totem that Gramps was kind of, crawling around there. But here at this point, Bear can kind of just honestly vibe, and you've got a little bit of time and don't think you have to worry about seeing a 5th gen. Now you just kind of patrol your hook, and you probably just going to be waiting to try and make a 50-50 play at the hatch.
Yeah, definitely. Bear has set himself up in a very comfortable position right now. A lot of pressure on our survivors here. I would assume that maybe Stacken is going to be looking to unhook or trying to finish that generator.
Checking lockers here in the basement. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Bear decided to try to check some of these lockers in the basement at Temple as well. But unfortunately now, really, you could be having Quentin really just hanging out anywhere. And we do see Gramps is getting relatively close to that 2nd stage, which does mean you're just 2 missed skill checks away. But I don't know if you saw that. Located right here on the backside of the corner. That is actually going to be the Quentin, not going to be able to stay hidden for enough time. Gramps might still potentially be able to sacrifice themselves and still allow a hatch play, but there are not too many resources left over here.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous place to be for our survivor. Bear going ahead and taking the chase, and a very, very nice phase.
Really good work here by Bear, and right as we see the 3rd elimination coming in, going to be able to get the 4th. And honestly, Bear coming out here and really just purgating all over this Temple, just really setting the pace for 6 here. And I mean, what is that? 4 gens done for Hex Girls? I mean, honestly, if there's a way that you want to come out and set a pace for a matchup, this is the way you do it right here.
Absolutely. This puts 6 in a very comfortable position going into their back-to-back killer rounds. Wait, back-to-back survivor rounds. Sorry, the thing had switched. This puts them in a very comfortable position for their back-to-back survivor rounds. And 6 has a really good survivor squad, so that's where I think they would be making the play to hold on to this very good lead they've given themselves.
Yeah, I mean, 6 has been one of those squads that really, from the jump, has kind of shown a very strong grasp on the survivor side, really good chemistry, always seems to have really good strategies no matter what map they're on. So knowing that you have, I mean, a substantial lead here going into back-to-back survivor trials, definitely Hex Girl's feeling the pressure right now. But I mean, we've seen Hex Girl's killers have some very strong performances on, I mean, this is their home map, right? I mean, we've seen Gramps put up some rather impressive performances here. So What's stopping them from doing it in back-to-back trials here?
Yeah. I think
Stop doing that. It's contagious.
I'm so sorry. It's
morning for
been a very
you.
long day. I know. I've been awake for a very long time. We did have a high five nominated, by the way. But yeah, I think this is the place where Hex Girls, I mean, they kind of have to try to close that gap as much as they can. Luckily for them, their killers are pretty dang good. So I think they can do it, but this is where they need to do it for sure.
I mean, this is one of those, I would say, common spots that I see a lot in competitive DBD. You come out, you don't necessarily get the results you're looking for in trial number 1, but you don't need to come out in trial number 2 and match that performance, right? You can come out here, get a good little cut into the lead, do it again in the following trial, then maybe make it to where, you know, maybe you just need to get like 2 people out and put your survivors in a good spot come trial number 4.
Absolutely. This is still very, very early in the matchup to be making any very firm calls on what could happen here. That is for certain.
So, do you think we see any sort of change in us? Do you think there's a strategy being thought about right now, like changing because you have a big point lead? Or do you think with it being Gramps and it being the home map, right now you're just kind of cool, calm, collect, basically thinking that the score is 0-0?
For 6? Or for Hex Girls?
For Hex Girls.
For Hex Girls, I mean, I think at this point in the season, they know who and what they're going up against. I mean, you know, we are at the end of week 7. They had a whole 6 weeks before this to kind of size up their opponent here. So I think Hex Girls probably came into this kind of probably with a plan of best and worst case scenario. I'm not saying that this is worst case scenario, but this is going to be pretty hard. They are going to have to fight pretty hard, and I'm sure that they have prepared for a situation like this. So
You're saying they were expecting a fight, is what you're saying?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, 6 is one of our top. I mean, again, they've only seen 1 loss so far, so I don't think it would be unfair for Hex Girls to assume that they are probably going to be in for a pretty tough fight. Even regardless of how good they did in the first match, even if the score had been a little closer to even in any way, I think this is not the place where Hex Girls can kind of expect to ease up a little bit or relax in any way, shape, or form.
And it's interesting here. And I always love seeing chat between our competitors in pregame lobby. Just because it's always so friendly back and forth. And now I'm wondering, there's no way that if Gramps was actually bringing in Demogorgon that you would confirm that in the pregame lobby, right?
I would think not, but I've been surprised.
Because that shows confidence. Like, yeah, that's what I'm coming on. You guys know about it. Whatever.
Gramps is like, this is going to be so easy. I'm going to let you know just so that you have a chance.
I mean, to be fair, you did talk about it. Demo would be a pick on this map where you can kind of get into some early chases while still setting yourself up to have a strong mid game. I would be interested to see though, because I feel like Demogorgon is one of those killers for most people, never really gets like past like C tier on most people's list. And when you're going against a team like 6, I feel like you want to try and make sure you're bringing out like the big guns, you know?
Yeah. I think Demo would be an interesting choice here. And if Hex Girls is really confident in Gramps' Demo, then I don't think it's a terrible choice. But it is a risky choice.
Right.
Because if you can't deliver, you're going to put yourself at an even bigger deficit. So they would probably need to be really, really confident in what they're putting out. I mean, and that goes for like any killer, but especially a killer like Demogorgon, who is not considered very high tier in comp.
I do see though we've got quite a few people starting to get ready up here. Are we good to switch over?
Let me see what the little birdie has to say. I haven't heard any confirmations just yet, though.
No worries. Whenever I see people getting ready, I get anxious, and I'm just like, you know what though? Let's go ahead. You know,
Is it time to push the button yet?
let's do it. Let's do the
Can
thing.
we do
you
the
know?
thing? Speaking of doing the things, we did have a high five nominated, so why don't we get that taken care of while we wait for our teams to get themselves situated?
You know what? I'll make a deal with you.
Oh no.
I will do a high five right now, but you have to count it down.
But I can't count. Okay. Fine. For the people. I will
people.
I will do this for the people. For you guys out there. Stop making me count. I hate it. Okay. All right. Gotta warm up the hands. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Make sure my arm is long enough. Cool. Okay, ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right. I love it.
Yay!
All right. High five. So that's our third high five of the day. We're on a roll.
Yeah, we are getting all the good high fives.
And we've had you count down 2 of them. We haven't had any problems. So I think from now on, you're just our dedicated counter downer.
So the reason I like having you guys count down actually is because my camera delays a little bit. So when you count down, I know, oh, I can go when they say 3, because by the time they're saying go and moving their hand, my hand will start moving at the same time. But I can go a little early. But then when I count down, I'm like, I can't even predict this. We're just gonna go for it. But it's okay. I can count. Psycho Mantis, thank you so much for trying to count, I think. I'm now just more confused though. You gotta go easy on me.
So I feel like right now, I know we've seen some relatively strong performances from Gramps on his home map, but definitely feel like you gotta have a little bit of nerves knowing that right now after trial number 1, you've got a 19-point deficit, right?
I mean, I think anyone in this position at any sort of deficit would be a little nervous. It's a lot of pressure, I feel like, especially because it is just Gramps, right? Like, there's nobody else. He's got nobody else on the map with him to help him out with this. And even though this is a team effort, he probably has his team behind him cheering him on. When it comes down to it, he's got to kind of carry that pressure. So I'm sure he feels maybe a little nervous. I would if I was in his shoes. I don't know. Maybe Gramps is just too cool and is like, yeah, it's fine. I got this. Like, easy.
But, I mean, honestly, 6, it's funny because I feel like when we talk about 6 a lot, we bring up their survivor side so much. But then their killer comes out here on a very tough map and, like, they're not even able to get all the gens done. I mean, granted, yeah, it's Spirit, but I think most people don't really rate Spirit up at what she used to be, right?
Yeah, definitely don't think Spirit is quite what she used to be. But, I mean, as we've seen, as people are starting to get used to how to play her and figuring out how to deal with how the nerfs kind of changed her kit, I think we're going to start seeing slowly that kind of return to her position as a high A tier killer. But it does look like everybody is ready to go. I could see you waiting to ask about it.
I get antsy. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
I know you're so ready. I wish I could say more than one thing at a time.
No, not even just you. It's just like, I know there's a lot that the players go through sometimes. I'm just like, bro, do me a favor. I just want to see you guys play the next one. Yeah.
Come on, let's go. With a stick, like, do something. Come on.
Yeah. But we are going to see the 4 bloodied blueprints here. We've got a cut coin. At this point, 6 is going to be looking to extend the lead, like you said, in back-to-back Survivor Trials. Let's talk about how they're points on the board here.
Let's talk about it, you guys. All right, so we talked about how killers gain their points. How are our survivors going to gain points to maintain their lead? Of course, you want to do your generators. You want to make sure that you can get your 5th gen done too, because that one is going to be worth the most points. However, what is actually important to our survivors is going to be the escapes, because the escape points are actually backloaded. So the first and second escape are worth 1 and 2 points respectively, but the third escape is worth 4 points, and the fourth escape is worth 6 points. So you really want to work to get all of those survivors out. Also, if you can get your survivors out with 1 hook state or less, so they've only been hooked once or they haven't been hooked at all, you get an additional point for every survivor who escapes with those with minimal hook states. There are 26 points available for our survivors to earn. If you want more on those rules, check !rules in chat.
All right, and let's take another trip back into the fog with Gramps coming out on the killer, and it is going to be the Huntress. Now, I do believe this will be Hex Girls consuming the Huntress for their season, if I'm not mistaken. But I do like this pick here because a lot of those longer tiles you can still kind of work around, right?
Yeah, Temple of Purgation is a map where a lot of the tiles are actually lower walled tiles, so I think Huntress is a really good pick to deal with that.
Now we are going to see that Gramps is going to be able to get rid of that pallet there just a little quicker thanks to that brutal strength. That's going to help along with that corrupt intervention as far as in the early portion of the trial. Things could be getting a little tough here. I'm not sure if Nia's going to be able... Ooh, I thought Nia wasn't going to be able to make the window. Gramps decided to continue that chase, but instead Gramps doubles back, and I think that might allow Nia to make this one more time around the loop and even back in through the window as well.
I think really smart of Nia to not take that window when Gramps thought she was going to, because as anyone knows, those animation locks against a Huntress are deadly.
And that is going to be a down before corrupt intervention is up. And not only is that going to be a down, but that is now going to be a basement hook. And it's going to be a basement hook over here on the portion of the map that's kind of borderline on like the side of basically your uncorrupt. Well, not even borderline, I should say, smack down in the middle of your uncorrupt side of the map. So going to be able to keep some pressure on the gens that were able to get pressured early, seeing that deadlock coming in on that gen right next to us there. Quite a bit of progress there. Also a lot of progress on this generator as well. Our survivor squad from 6 doing it exactly like we anticipated, coming in and really slamming out those gens.
Absolutely, and there goes our second generator, which is I think a completely different generator. So our survivor's doing a really good job of getting those gens done.
Now we are going to see the Scott Juntress hold of the hatchet here at the corner. It is going to be a down. No bots was just up on the shoulder. Unfortunately, no decisive strike to be had here. So that is going to be back into the basement you go. Now here's the question. You will remember the first generator that was covered up by the deadlock was the one that was basically closest to us at this point. If you're able to get that gen here, do you even worry about this last like progression?
I think if you can get rid of this gen, honestly, I don't know if I would worry about it. But also, they've got a little bit of a 3 gen on the other side, so I don't even know if this is the generator that they want to worry about in the first place.
Yeah, we do see as Gramps goes over the temple itself, has noticed that there is some progress getting done on this generator down here. That is going to be Lincoln getting found down here. Should be a relatively quick application. Probably going to be a hatchet. Yep, here first right before the corner, which should allow another hatchet here not too long after. Trying to follow along. I'm not sure if this is, I'm guessing, a lucky break Iron Will combo possibly. But we are going to see a down. Really nice hatchet, and that is going to be a hook here outside of the temple, and Gramps might be able to get back over and contest them getting out of shack here.
Yeah, a dangerous position to be in for our survivors right now. However, we will see the heal come in the basement area. This is really interesting, an interesting choice.
Right, imagine if Coolio had walked out of the stairs and just caught that hatchet, like not even thinking. I would have been so, so mad.
So mad.
Yeah.
I would have been so mad.
We are going to see the M1 though onto the Nia. Of course, the Nia is going to be at this point 1 health state away from being removed from the trial. The tunnel out process, definitely the right decision. We are going to see that generator over here that was covered by the first deadlock now being covered by a third deadlock, and still being very far progressed, very close to being done here. There is the unhook across the way. Unfortunately, just a little too high on that corner. They're not going to be able to get the hatchet there. Also looks like a very quick, or no, that's a reset actually onto our Nia. So, I mean, honestly, our survivor's just doing a really good of pushing back on the little bit of pressure that Gramps continues to push out.
Yeah, our server's doing a really good job of trying to keep Gramps really, really preoccupied. I think there's one survivor we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, this is going to be the Nia here, though, doing the tight turns around the tree. Oh, I don't know if you're going to be able to make it to anything else. Keep in mind, she does still have the dead hard from earlier. Nice dead hard to avoid the hatchet there. Oh, an early M1 is going to allow a little bit more distance here. We are going to see in the left-hand corner, Gramps does still have one hatchet here, one shot, one opportunity. Something, mom's... No, anyways, that is going to be our third and final hook onto this particular survivor. We are going to see, though, a 5th gen getting done. No Way Out getting procs here. Only 2 stacks of that. So already 25% through the progression on that. Really going to be needing some pressure here to put out. And again, only 1 hatchet currently in the chamber.
These are definitely not particularly friendly doors for our Huntress either.
Yeah, not the best. Oh, unfortunately getting caught up in the corner after the M1. You shouldn't have to worry about a dead hard at this point, Gramps. Don't forget Nia had it. You should just be able to close this distance here, get the M1. But yeah, you are more than likely going to see our 2 remaining survivors across the way. Just go ahead and take the out here. But I believe Clay was that one survivor that you had mentioned earlier that we hadn't seen much of, which does mean that's at least going to be 1 hook and 2 progressions that you pick up here in the end game.
Yeah, definitely. Clay is going to be a fresh hook here, and I think it would be really dangerous for our survivors to try to get the unhook in front of a Huntress with all her hatchets.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, the decision is definitely, especially with as far away as they are probably at the other door, I think the decision is to leave here. And we're probably going to be seeing them do just that, especially because you've already built yourself a lead. Why give any more points here, right?
Yeah, definitely with how far that other door was, and I think they didn't really touch this door that's closest to our hook, that the smartest move is to just get out, because you don't want to risk giving up any more points that you don't need to.
Right, I mean, we're going to see here, I mean, still looking at a very good lead. I mean, basically with that score, if our score is finalized there, I believe that means that trial resulted in a tie, which means we're still looking at a 19-point differential here.
Yep, and for anyone who voted in our predictions, because that was a tie, your points were just refunded, so you lost nothing, you gained nothing, you just got back what you put in, because that was a tie match.
It means you all lost. Get wrecked, nerds.
Should have been better, I guess.
Yeah, get the better gaming chair.
Yeah. Not a bad showing from Gramps, though. We have seen some pretty nasty Huntress plays from him before, so not a bad showing to come out with once again.
Yeah, and it's interesting because now you come out and you don't cut into the lead, but you also didn't allow a bigger lead to be formed, right? So you can still cut into it in one more survivor trial and then go into a killer game. But that does really put the stress down that you need to make sure that you come out with like your best, like you got to come out with who you think's going to give you a full, like a 4K at like 4 gens, you know?
Yeah, you really need to match that performance from the first game of 6 killing if you want to catch up here in any way, shape, or form. At the very least, I think Hex Girls is going to want to be looking at getting a 2K with a lot of hook states, or potentially a 3K to try to close this gap to be something reasonable for their survivors to try to catch up with.
Wash should be my survivor I'm inviting, right?
Yes, I think.
All
yes, right. I had to think about that one. Yes.
I know you had to go into the deep thoughts in the back of my mind, which is why I was giving you a second. It's all right. I just want to make sure. I
also had to listen for the little birdie my
No,
ear.
no, no, you know it all. That's my story, and I'm sticking with
I'm
it.
sorry. It's all me. It's all me.
That's
I am
right.
the associate producer of Vigos. I know everything. I see all.
So here now at this point, if you're Hex Girls, we talked about it, right? Like, I don't think you were out of it if you lose today, but you definitely kind of want to put, I don't want to say all the eggs into one basket. Like, you had mentioned, the reason I bring it up is you had mentioned earlier, like the thought of, hey, maybe do we bring out like Nurse here, right? And I think looking at the rest of the schedule for Hex Girls, right? You get the off next week, and then you still have Death Wish, Entity, who showed, even though they might be in record, one of the lower teams, still a force to be reckoned with. You've got Hookers, Monarchy. I feel like even though you would like to have the S tier available later in the season, like you have to make sure that you win this one almost, right? Knowing that you still have a really tough schedule.
Yeah, this is they're kind of in a tricky situation here where they want to, like, the more that they give up here, the harder they are going to have to work going forward against teams that are going to be just as difficult to play against.
And probably at that point, they will also be bringing in those S tiers you should be prepared for. But since they're coming in with those S tiers, it means they're probably going to be prepared to play against them. So, I don't know. Maybe you might be able to catch a team who here was expecting to not see some S tiers, maybe catch them off guard. But, I mean, man, we just saw that last round. I mean, kind of what we've seen from Six pretty consistently throughout the season, right? Just really strong survivor play consistently across the team. Like, you can't exactly like leave one chase and expect to like find someone else who's an easier down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not really something that our killers are going to be reasonably able to look for here. So again, like a really tough position to be in, but Hex Girls has a lot of options still open to them. It just kind of depends on how they're feeling about this matchup and this set compared to the other games they have this for the rest of their season. Words.
And I don't know, things get interesting because talking also as far as, you know, we had mentioned kind of Hex Girls rest of the season, and here, even though Six did take the laws to Monarchy last week, I mean, they're looking at probably, I mean, they've got some tough matchups, but I feel like looking at it this week and Wrecking Crew next week are probably the ones that I would say are the biggest like challenges looking at it. So maybe I feel like for them a really good like notch in the belt, knowing that they're only sitting on one loss, and also knowing that the margin for error at the top moving towards playoffs is very, very thin.
Yeah, we're starting to get down to that wire where I think kind of everyone too, especially teams who still have a chance or are still kind of in the running, are kind of feeling the pressure. Like, this is the point where you can't make any mistakes that you might have made in earlier season, and also our killer uses are like dwindling down. So it's starting to get a little bit harder here, especially kind of knowing what you have to do and what you have to accomplish if you want to have a chance at a postseason career.
A postseason career, a whole flipping career. Oh my goodness!
Whole career. I couldn't think of the word. I was like, career's close enough. I've been playing too much Valorant. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. I love it. We'll let it slide here. Now,
please. I'm so tired, bruh.
Now, the good thing for our survivors here, I feel like right now, if you're Six, you gotta know that. Or you got to be comfortable knowing that if you can come in here and basically, even if you just complete the gens, you're setting your killer up to have like a very obtainable win condition come trial number 4.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like if they tie this next match again, they still have a 19-point lead. And that's a pretty large margin. I feel like anything over 13 points is going to be a little hard to make up for on the survivor side. Especially since survivors can only gain 26 points. So having to gain anything above 13 points to close a gap is going to be a little bit harder.
So with that being said, do you think we see, as far as a build, more dependent on relying on getting all of your pressure early game, or do you think this might be one of those situations where we see someone come in with like a corrupt, no ed, no way out, and like one perk?
I think it really, first of all, I think that really depends on what killer Hex Girls has to bring here. But honestly, I'm going to assume that they're going to want to deny as many points as possible to 6 here on the survivor side. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a really aggressive early game build.
Like a ruined Thana pop sort of deal?
Yeah, like something super aggressive, super oppressive. Because again, the more points you can starve from 6, the better. But it does look like everyone's ready for you to shimmy on over.
Fantastic. I'm going to shimmy my way on over. We're going to tell them good luck, have fun. And yeah, now we can actually get in and actually decide the game. Well, I shouldn't say decide the game, because we are, of course, heading into trial number 3 here. But I do feel like this is a very crucial trial right now for Hex Girls, because even though you can't win this matchup in trial number 3, you can definitely lose this trial lose this matchup in trial number 3, right?
Absolutely. A lot of pressure on Hex Girls here. They need to close this gap if they want to make this game any easier going into their 4th round and have a chance of winning this matchup.
Knowing that pressure is on here, I mean, I feel a big thing to probably keep an eye out for is probably like these first 2 chases. If you can string together a couple of chases, you're feeling a little bit better about yourself, get yourself a couple of gens and kind of build that momentum, you know. Oh, no, they're killing. You need to get a couple of downs quick. I take that all back. But we saw we have all of our offerings. We have rules and things and stuff that's banned. So how about we talk about that?
We do have rules and things and stuff that are banned, so let's talk about it, you guys. All right, so what is allowed in Vigo's Court? I'm glad you asked. You can have yellow items and add-ons and below, and only one of each perk and item on the survivor side. However, you can have duplicate BP. Go ahead, save your friends. That is allowed. I don't know why we allow that, but, you know, we do. We do not allow, however, certain perks. You will not see Book Blast, Prove Thyself, or Starstruck, as well as Haunted Ground, Lethal Pursuer, no boons, and no clairvoyance, as well as none of the perks from the newest chapter. Killers used are limited to twice a season. Survivors are also limited to just 1 character per team, so no 4 Dwights, 1 Locker. Violations are subject to penalties. If you want more on these rules or more on our penalties, you can check !rules in chat if you're feeling real impatient.
All right, let's go ahead and take another trip back into the fog, this time with Iridori out on the killer for Hex Girls. And we are going to see the twins coming into play. I like this play here. I'm assuming our hope is to try and build some really good mid-game pressure, maybe going for a little bit of a slug city towards the middle of the game here. We are able to get a very early application onto the Nia. We have also found ourselves another survivor, and of course that's good for the twins. A lot of other killers, you kind of want to find a survivor, get 2 quick health state changes, but for the twins, if you can spread that pressure, also here knowing that in your build you do have the Thanatophobia, so spreading that pressure also slows down the progress on the gens. Definitely a very, very good decision here.
Absolutely. I think this is a really aggressive choice to pull out, which is exactly what Hex Girls needed if they want to be able to close this gap at all.
And I feel like Twins is a killer that is, I think, underrated for the most part. I feel like if you talk to most of the people in the competitive scene, I feel like they will firmly place the Twins like in your first 3 after the top 3, whereas I think a lot of people kind of have the perception from pub matches, maybe not quite as strong of a killer, but definitely a very strong option. And we're kind of seeing why here. Oh, plus 10 wood to the face. Really nice pallet, but we've been able to keep pressure on multiple survivors throughout the course of this early part of the trial. Yeah, corrupt intervention is almost up here in about 10 seconds. But again, we have kept at least 2 people injured for a majority of our trial here thus far. Also putting pressure in amongst these gens where we're taking chase as well. So really good pressure all the way around.
Yeah, definitely. Getting a lot of pressure down on these survivors, able to kind of like juggle them between Charlotte and Victor.
Ooh,
That's
really good play by the Nia, baiting like they were going around one more rotation and then showing back up at the last second in order to get the stun onto the Victor. But of course, quicker time here as far as with your cooldown, thanks to your add-on, does allow for a very quick play for the Victor. We did see an attempt at a body block there, unfortunately was not successful. That's going to be our first down here, but it has been a little while. So even though we have seen a couple of survivors kind of juggling around, trying to, make a little bit of a nuisance here for our killer, we've also seen our survivor squad probably still being across the map, spreading that pressure and getting some gens out of the way.
Yeah, Six doing a really good job of dealing with the pressure that is being put out here. Really, we've only seen 2 survivors, and we saw somebody in the beginning, but they cleared out and are putting hopefully pressure down on these other generators away from where our chases have been happening.
Oh, and this is tough. So that is going to be Clay across the map, jumping into a locker. If I had to guess, Irodori here is not going to go over that locker, but instead just allow Victor to be, able to secure Clay away for a couple of seconds. Come back over here. We're going to check on this gen. You can hear this thing knocking like a Ford the middle of December. I'll tell you what, that thing's just about ready to go. Unfortunately, no pop goes the Weasel, which does mean that is going to be a dry kick, but we are going to see Victor coming across the map, closing in on the hook as we do see our friend here just about ready to go on to a second stage. Not in time. Now going to be getting the application onto the fresh survivor here as well, so still spreading down that pressure amongst multiple survivors.
Also getting some good information from Victor, just knowing that somebody is nearby. With that killer instinct there.
And now we're going to see at this point, Irodori is going to push into this portion of the map. As you can see here, still quite a bit of gens around that do need to be worked on. But there is going to be generator number 2. Now, generator number 2 is not the generator that was covered up by Deadlock earlier that we had the dry kick on. So we do know that we probably have a third gen getting relatively close. I think that's actually a gen that is covered up by the Deadlock there currently. This is now going to be a third health state change with a very nice hit through the window. And I think because you were close enough to another survivor, that broken status coming in is actually going to be from that forced penance there.
Yeah, and again, just a ton of really good information for our killer here.
And we do see Ace here trying to put on the moves here. Unfortunately, does not have those moves like Jagger. That is going to be a down here. And we are going to see our friend Victor now trying to find another victim. Oh, not going to be able to find the hit onto Coolio. I think Coolio came out just a little bit too late, but now you should actually see this survivor being trapped in here. Now the question is, what decision do you make here if you're Irodori? Irodori does look like they are indeed going to push over here towards this locker. I like that decision. I think that's the correct decision here, as we are going to see now coming over here, picking Coolio out by the throat, because that's what we do here in DBD. Up onto the shoulder you go, and that is now going to be a basement hook.
Absolutely. And I mean, hopefully for Irodori, we don't see a pickup or a, that was a weird glitch, or a unbreakable, but it does look like we will see that down survivor get back up on their feet.
Yeah, and we do see that generator has a lot of progress, and keep in mind, we do still see the initial gen over here that Victor is going towards that had so much progress on it at one point in time. Still here, there is going to be Victor getting punted. They're getting crushed. That is going to be 2 survivors that we saw over towards the generator. That is the second furthest progressed. We also see that the Deadlock is now off of that generator that was in the basement. We are also going to see a broken status on Coolio. I think that is still left over from the last forced penance. I don't think that was oh, Maybe that was a deliverance plate. Oh no, because they would probably just came up from the unhook. So I'm not sure if that was a deliverance plate. It might still be left from the force penance.
Yeah, not entirely sure there, but very interesting to see Iridori have two. Oh, nice fake out. Have two injured survivors here and go for the one that is carrying Victor at the moment.
Yeah, I believe part of the decision as far as that goes is because that is a survivor that does get eliminated from the trial. So here you at least bring it down to a 3v1. Here, yeah, you know that this generator's relatively close, but you can see here still probably about 15 seconds of repair is needed by one survivor, if I had to guess on that one. Or, you know, our survivors could just be across the map doing the other gen, whatever. That's going to be our 5th gen, though, getting done here by 6, doing a very good job, even though Iridori has shown a very good efficiency of putting pressure out on multiple survivors, still doing a very good job cranking out those gens. And now a very fast door getting opened as well. And I think this looks like with the reset onto Nancy as well, I think that's going to be all 3 survivors getting out the door here. That is a very, very impressive performance by 6.
Where are they? At the other door?
I'm wondering if maybe you were coming in together to
Oh.
guide people along to make sure you were good to go.
Yeah, probably just making sure they were able to body block for each other, just in case anyone got caught out in a really weird place. Leaving some nice offerings for our killer here.
That's so cute. Leaving the present behind. You'd love to see it. Yeah. Now go. Scram. Skedaddle. But a really good performance. I mean, 6 just really doing what we've seen 6 be able to do very, very consistently throughout the course of this season. You know, they had actually gone from a 19-point lead all the way up to, is that a 30-point lead I'm seeing there?
I can't count, and I can't see the numbers right now, but I can confirm that in just a moment. I do believe, however, that that is a 30-point lead, which puts our killers in a very uncomfortable position.
Yeah, I mean, what that just basically means as soon as the first gen's done, right?
Sorry. Actually, I think that puts our survivors in an uncomfortable position. Actually, if 6 is killing, our survivors can't catch up.
Oh yeah, all they can get is 26 points, huh? So 6 able to force an early decision, and this isn't the first time that we've seen this from 6, right? I mean, and I think what's more impressive in this case is you do it on the road, because that means you do it with 2 survivor trials instead of 2 killer trials.
Yeah.
But I mean, 6 has kind of shown consistently that their survivors are no joke.
Absolutely. Again, just one of those teams that kind of plays into the idea that a lot of the times, a lot of teams have really strong survivor teams over their killer teams. Not to say that 6 doesn't also have very strong killers, because their killers have shown that they are strong, but their survivors are definitely kind of a force to be reckoned with there.
Yeah, I just feel like every time we see 6 come out, they do this thing that we see a lot of the teams at the top. And I was going to mention some names, but I don't really want to, because I don't want to put them in the same category just quite yet. But something that we see from a lot of the top teams in DBD, which is, even though you're consistently seeing like 2 or 3 survivors because they're rotating in, they're taking the body blocks and seeing, so you're like, well, they can't be crushing gens. I'm seeing them all and they're all taking hits. They're still somehow just like ranking generators. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's like, oh, like I'll come rotate for this body block, but if I take this body blocker, can you get on my gen? It's like, yeah, you got it. Like, just very consistently keeping up that gen pressure, rotating through and making sure that the objectives are getting done, even if someone is always constantly being harassed by the killer. Because in these games, I don't think we ever had a moment where the killers weren't preoccupied with a survivor. They were just preoccupied with one survivor for too long.
No, 100%. I mean, I would say that last trial wasn't really about like mistakes that Iridori made as much as it was just, I mean, 6 doing what 6 is so good at doing on the survivor side, which is being hella efficient, right? Like,
yeah, incredibly efficient. Again, like, there was never a moment where Iridori wasn't in chase with someone in that game, but was just the chases were taking too long. And by that, I mean they were taking any amount of time that was allowing Six to go ahead and just destroy those generators.
Yeah, I mean, we even saw at one point you go for the slug, you get a relatively quick down after, and even still, you get the pickup, you get the reset, and it's like Iridori never had any pressure out at all. It's just, I mean, honestly, it was very impressive to watch just how efficient the survivors are being.
Yeah, just an incredible survivor match from Six. Kind of showing the importance of, I don't know, getting your gens done. What a concept.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like it's something that is overcomplicated sometimes because people want to, you know, prepare for the NOED and pub matches, right? So they're going around and breaking all the totems, and it's like, bro, just hold M1 and hit some skill checks. It's not that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can loop, why are you worried about getting caught by NOED?
Right.
Says the girl who can't loop at all, but you know.
And it's always getting caught by NOED, so. Look, I realized that I
haven't gotten caught by NOED yet. Wait a second.
I had realized the other day that I had done it to myself because I'm always like very much on top of like totem hunting while I am looking for gens. But then sometimes I'll be playing with my community and I'll be like, hey, where are we at on gens? I don't know, but the last totem's getting cleansed. I'm like, that's cool. We're at like 7 hooks and 2 gens done. But hey, if we get to end game, we don't have to worry about NOEDs. That's good.
Like if we get to endgame, we're golden. Yeah. But I don't think we're gonna get to endgame at this rate, you guys.
Yeah.
Very, very funny what the differences between pubs and comp play are. Priorities are just so different, man. So different. And I'm almost loath to say this. We do have another high five nomination.
Yes, and that means that Shep has to count us down for another one.
Which is the one thing I don't like to do.
Do we know what this one's for? Or is it just because we're awesome? Because I'm fine with that.
I think it's...
And by we, I mean Vigos is awesome.
Yeah, Vigos as a whole. You know, someone said when they nominated Hex Girls, like, they were cheering for Hex Girls, and I think that's appropriate because usually when we're getting nominated for high fives, it's Iridori.
I love it.
So someone is carrying on the torch in Iridori's honor.
All right, I love it. I love it. So, you want to do us the honor there, Judge?
No, but I will. All right, you ready?
Yeah, let's do this thing.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Hey, let's go.
Yeah, that was a good one. Oh, I like that one.
All right, so at this point, sometimes I like seeing these trials that we're about to see because now we can see Washed come out with a killer that maybe we don't always see, but can still spice things up by just being different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a good chance. They're probably going to burn a killer here, which is going to be a killer usage they weren't probably going to use regularly in the season, which leads to some really fun gameplay. We've seen a couple of Legions come out at this point. We've seen a couple of Ghost Faces come out at this point. We've seen Ghost Faces come out before this point, honestly. We've seen a couple of Ghost Faces come out at this point. So I think this is a chance to see a really fun pick. I think at one point we saw, like, Paige brought out Chase Hag?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we did see a Chase Hag, so we have a lot of very fun options here. And it does look like we can find out how fun this is going to be in just a moment here because our teams are ready to go.
Well, you know what's funny is I almost caught myself saying, this could even be a place that you bring out a Trickster if you just want to burn a killer, but I mean, we saw earlier today, Trickster can compete. Trickster showed up.
I'm having war flashbacks of that Trickster game. Yeah, like I'm scared of Trickster again.
But we are going to see 4 bloodied blueprints. We're going to see the cut coin here as well. Last time we kind of talked about the rules and things, and contrary to popular belief, rules were not meant to be broken. So if they are broken, let's kind of talk about what happens here in Vigos Court.
Yeah, let's talk about those penalties, you guys. All right, so if you break a rule, which is probably the only way that Hex Girls can make a comeback at this point is if Six breaks the rules. These are the reasons that these are the rules that you shouldn't be breaking. I'm trying to remember what our penalties penalties are.
Oh, I just realized I went to the wrong thing. Let's go to this scene here. How about that?
Woo, better. Matches with penalties. They can be played out. They could be restarted or both. It depends on the severity of the penalty. Obviously some are a little less severe than others, like two of the same survivor, bring a banned perk, item, or add-on, having like doubles of things. That's -5 points and a possible restart if it really negatively impacts the game. The wrong map, however, is -5 points and an auto restart. Harassing the ref, please don't do that. Bringing players on the roster, please don't do that. That's -10 points per offense. No restart, no chances after that. So please don't harass our refs. Using exhausted killers are also going to be a -10 points and an auto restart, and delaying the game is going to be -1 point for every minute past the first 5 minutes. For more on those rules, check !rules in chat if you would like to go over those one last time.
All right, let's take one last trip into the fog here for week number 7. We are going to see Washed coming out on the Nemesis here, and it's interesting. I feel like Nemesis is one of these killers that you still haven't seen a lot of in competitive DBD, but I feel like for some people is slowly, or I really shouldn't even say slowly, I should actually say for some people very quickly moving up some tier lists.
Yeah, we've seen some pretty strong performances from Nemesis recently, so it's interesting to kind of see Six bring him out here when they're kind of like burning a killer.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe this is like a, hey, we've got some things I want to try for Nemesis in case I need to bring him out later in the season. Because I don't think they've used Nemesis. They haven't used any of their Nemesis. Is this a fish thing? They haven't used any of their Nemesis.
Oh no, the zombie!
Here. And the nice 1-2 combo there from Fat Patricia, able to get the nice hit onto our player here, and then that's also going to be a down, really good combo all the way around.
These zombies are doing some work for our killers here, and I was gonna say this could also be Six just kind of sticking to the plan they had originally too.
Yeah, you know, that could also be the case. I mean, we have seen that Six has already kind of been in this position where they have had the opportunity to burn killers come trial number 4 in the past. So maybe you're just kind of comfortable in your killer pool for what's left in the season. So like you said, yeah, maybe we don't need to burn a stronger killer, but that's already the plan, and we feel very confident in what our killer picks are for the rest of the season.
Yeah, especially as late into the season as we are, this might just be something that they were comfortable giving up, regardless of if it was to try to win the game or just to burn. So
it is interesting, though.
It's interesting to see, though. It is really interesting to see.
And I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like Nemesis is making an argument to be considered in the first 3 after the top 3 conversation, I must say. I mean, especially because as you level up your mutation, regardless of what your add-ons are, you have that ability to not only remove like resources out of the way with your power, but you're able to do it while continuing to move and having like minimal cooldown, right?
Absolutely. Although I do kind of think that Nemesis is a little bit high risk, high reward, because he really does depend on you being able to tier up that power.
Yeah, so I think you definitely have to have a lot of confidence. I would say I would agree with that statement for sure. I think it's one of those killers that we will probably see as more, kind of like with Twins, right? For a while, like you didn't really see Twins competitive. And then it was like you saw it a lot in the Russian and EU scene, whereas now Twins has kind of become more of a popular like comp pick.
Yeah, and I do want to state, or I do want to make a comment on how quickly Washed got that tier 3 for his Nemesis Tentacle Strike. So, making an argument that it might not be that hard to level up.
Yeah, I mean, we're at tier 3 here at this point, and I believe we have already had 1, if not 2 vaccines already consumed. Although one would really make the serious argument that it's a serum because it's curing you, and a vaccine anyways, now finding some scratch marks though. Back here, actually this is going to be some scratch marks away from a generator, and you'll notice some sparks coming off of that gen. Still seeing some very good ruin value here. Another whip across the back here from Quentin. That is going to be a health state change. Ooh, and another health state change from Fat Patricia there, getting the hit on the Gramps. And now here might be looking at a down in the bottom of the temple. Oh my goodness.
Yep, zombies doing some work, and those pallets just are not safe against a tier 3 nemesis. If you can't get to the high side and kind of crouch down back there.
Kind of interesting to see Washed not take the survivor and put him in the back of the basement of the temple, knowing that that generator's already done, would be taking them a lot of time. My thought process is probably they are also worried about obviously the time that it would take to put them back there itself, but we do see finding another survivor relatively quick. This is Irodori here. Really nice whip shot around the corner. Able to get that hit there. We also see a broken status on the save. Not sure if that is a a renewal, or if maybe that is in a deliverance play itself. We do see, I believe this is the ace on this portion here. So unless that was our fully healthy survivor, I believe that was indeed actually a deliver. Oh no, it must have been a renewal.
It does look like that was a renewal, so that means somebody was getting the save instead of working on a generator. Oh god, those zombies make me so nervous now.
I mean, they've been doing some work. I mean, and to be fair, can kind of understand why. It does not look like these zombies have skipped leg day. They do be thumbing out here sometimes in the fog. That is going to be generator number 3 getting done, though, and at this point, you are going to be placing a hook on it by a generator that has a lot of progress as well. There is one hit taken. Might be able to exchange. Ooh, still going to be able to get the hook, though. That is going to be hook number 2 onto Eternal Jade. And since Irodori was there around the area for so long, this should actually be a down there, though. Really good job by Gramps coming in and taking the whip first. And that is going to be now both of them retreating towards the shack.
Yeah, Wash doing a really good job of coming in to try to absorb that tentacle strike so that it doesn't take Irodori out so close to this hook over here. A little risky, but I mean, it paid off.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a very bold strategy, Cotton, but we're going to see how it pays off from here now, moving around the shack itself. And that's actually going to be a save coming across onto Eternal Jade. Unfortunately, we do see Gramps just outside of whip range, which does mean that our killer here, Wash, does decide to come back, check up on the unhook. It does look like, though, we've actually got our ace now moving back towards the shack, now moving towards this portion of the map, back in the corner where we haven't taken any chase. So if we can get back here to where we have some pallets, might be able to prolong the chase, but of course it is Nemesis, and they do have the ability to just whip you from distance.
Yeah, that tier 3 tentacle is mighty long, you guys. While he missed the first couple times, Wash definitely hit his target this time and will be able to secure the first elimination here.
And things are kind of interesting here because we do still have 2 survivors in the trial at this point that are both injured. We do also have Ruin in play as well. And we know that the generator over in this portion of the map that we were just at that had a lot of progress on it at one point in time has regressed a lot thanks to that Ruin tier 3, because of course that means even a 99 gen will be regressed all the way back in just 2 minutes.
Yeah, that is a lot of pressure for our survivors who are having a time with the zombies in the first place.
Oh, maybe trying to go for the tech, and unfortunately that is going to be a down here. Interesting to see Wash decide to go for the slug here. Not exactly sure if this is the necessary play, but we have been able to locate the only survivor who is not currently injured, that being Irodori. That is going to be Irodori going for the window, not going to be able to get the whip in time. Now going to be taking chase into the far corner here. Now the question is, what is Gramps doing? It does look like we have a pickup relatively fast. I feel like that was probably a little bit too quick for an unbreakable, so probably did involve Gramps helping with the pickup there, meaning that that is the location of our other 2 survivors.
Yeah, and a really fast reset on Gramps there.
Yeah, that makes me think though that maybe Washed interrupted a reset between Gramps and Iridori because Iridori had just recently gotten healed. So Gramps probably only had a little bit of a heal left and got healed after picking stacking bodies off of the ground. We do see though sparks flying off of that gen again, still having that ruin value. Honestly, this is a perfect example of why you take the risk of bringing in ruin. Yeah, sometimes it lasts 45 seconds, but as you can see here at this point, this is going to be hook state number 6, and you still have ruin in play.
And again, making an interesting choice to leave a survivor slugged on the ground and go off looking for maybe Wash saw something I didn't.
I think there you had already or you had already used the. No, you hadn't used the hook back there. I thought the hook was over on the other side. Yeah, this is an interesting play here, but we do see that you did do a very good job of locating. I'm not sure if that was supposed to be the reset location here, but now taking the M2 as Gramps. Now you have both survivors back here. Gramps and stacking bodies, both injured, both taking a loop around the shack. That does look like that is going to be a balanced play landing here by our Quinn, able to build a little bit of distance, but of course, this is Nemesis. He does have not only some very nice big old feet to track you down with, but he does have that whip to be able to close that distance here as well. We do now have 2 survivors on the ground. We are going to be trying to track down Bill, which is relatively easy because that man has smoked 4 packs a day of Reds for the whole last 40 years of his life. That's going to be now 3 survivors down on the ground. And at this point, you just got to locate your slugs, and that's an easy 4K.
Yeah, the only hope for Hex Girls here is that one of our down survivors has Unbreakable, but I'm not entirely sure. Oh.
Well, there is the deliverance play from Gramps, and we do see building a little bit of distance coming over towards this corner of the map. Remember, our first survivor that we had dropped was over here, but unfortunately, before Gramps is able to locate that survivor, they are going to take a down. Keep in mind, the deliverance usually comes with the decisive strike, slaps them with the D, and that's going to be Gramps building just a little bit more distance, prolonging this chase just a little bit longer.
Yeah, Gramps able to stay on his feet just a little bit longer, maybe buying time for someone to get back up, but not quite.
Oh no, you got Gramps was able to get Iridori up, but unfortunately, Gramps did take the down, and then that's Fat Patricia doing what Fat Patricia does best, blocking off the stairway here, and that is now going to be Iridori moving away from the bottom of the temple here, taking the vault off the window and shouldn't have much speed. Unfortunate miss with the whip, but should not be able. Oh, I see you, Washed. Going for the 360 phase up, baby. Let's go.
360 no scope. 360 no scope.
And now at this point, as long as you're able to track down all of your slugs, I believe we have seen pretty much everything that can prolong the game at this point. We should have seen an Unbreakable. We have already seen the deliverance. We have seen the decisive strike. We see a body floating, or not floating away, but crawling away from this hook right here. So that is going to be Quentin now getting secured onto the hook as well, meaning that you just have one last body. And Washed, I mean, I feel like this is why you're seeing Nemesis crawling up a lot of people's tiers list.
Yeah, Nemesis is able to put down a lot of pressure, especially on these larger maps. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to be had on a small map as well, to be sure, with the 2 zombies and Nemesis roaming around. But on these larger maps, Nemesis is kind of designed to deal with that.
And yeah, it's interesting because I do feel like, I know it's been a little while since I have taken a look at our killer usage, because I know we had the split week and everything, but I feel like Nemesis is one of those killers that we have not seen a lot of teams get a lot of use out of yet.
Yeah, I think we have one team who has completely burned usages of Nemesis, that being Outlaws of the Fog. But otherwise, yeah, we've seen a couple of people bring Nemesis out, but otherwise he hasn't made a lot of appearances in this season.
Which is interesting, and I wonder if Nemesis is kind of along the lines of Pinhead, where just maybe a little too new. You know, obviously, we do see a lot of times that our competitive players tend to be creatures of habit, right? You kind of get used to what the meta is. And then when something like, let's say, a spirit nerf comes, you kind of panic because it's new, even though spirit hasn't changed too much. You could even say the same thing about like Deathslinger's nerf, right? But I think as we continue to see more teams again spend more time with Nemesis and Pinhead on the killer side, I would not be surprised to see, honestly, both of them become more consistent faces.
Yeah, absolutely. I think both Pinhead and Nemesis have kind of been making a statement. Nemesis more than Pinhead. I don't think Pinhead will be super high tier, but I think he is not a bad killer to use.
Yeah.
In the right situation. But I do believe you're right. They are probably just a little too new for everyone to have kind of figured out the most optimal way to play them. And if there's anything I can say for a lot of our comp DBD killers, they are very thorough. So I'm sure what we are seeing is the result of a lot of people kind of poking and prodding around to see what is viable before bringing things out into the comp setting. I think that's why we're seeing a little bit more spirit now as we go into the later part of our season.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing, some good performances from her. I even would say the couple of times I've seen Deathslinger come out after his change, I feel like he is still able to put some relatively consistent performances, even though, the initial reaction was that, Deathslinger was dead.
Yeah. They killed him.
But I feel like really both of them have kind of shown that it's just about learning a different way to play them, right?
Absolutely. I think you're right. It's kind of just adjusting to how these changes change them and getting used to a different play style on a character that you may have been very familiar with.
But man, talking about as far as what we just saw tonight, I mean, I know Six took an unfortunate loss to Monarchy, who is one of the 3 teams that is left undefeated at this point. But talk about a way, a very impressive way to bounce back on the road against the Hex Girls, who have been on a relatively decent tear as of late. I mean, if you think about it, they beat Demise, they beat Entity, who we saw earlier today is still a force to be reckoned with. They lost a very close game to Outlaws of the Fog, but I mean, they've still been on a pretty good tear themselves.
Yeah, again, just kind of goes to show that we just have a lot of really good teams in Vigos. Everyone is really strong in their own right, and it kind of just comes down to like a lot of really slim margins. So I think there is definitely still a chance for Hex Girls to come back here. And that this loss is by no means saying that they are not a strong team or a good competitor in Vigos.
It is going to get tough though for Hex Girls because, again, I feel like similar to now at this point, they're kind of in a similar position that I would say the Hookers were kind of, or not Hookers, the Outlaws were in heading into the day, where like now your back's pretty well against the wall. After this point, you gotta win out, right? And that's not undoable, but I think you gotta take kind of take some lessons from this week. You got next week as like a bye week, and then you've got 4 solid weeks where you need to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, I think with this loss, actually, Hex Girls and Outlaws are kind of in the same position now after week 7. And we're going to see quite a few teams who are going to be like in a very similar situations going into week 7. And they're going to have to kind of like duke it out against the teams they are going against and kind of hoping that who they are matched with is not doing as well to try and have a shot at postseason here.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what should kind of be expected when you've got a couple of teams still sitting at the top, right, undefeated. So you're going to have quite a few teams behind them that are very close together in that margin for error. I mean, really today between the 2 matchups, because that is, both the teams that we're talking about, Outlaws and Hex Girls, both from the White Ward. So I would really say with Hex Girls' loss today, almost kind of puts Outlaws more back into the race, right?
I think so. I'm not really good at the stats side of this, and I usually leave this to everyone else. But yes, that does kind of put Outlaws back kind of on their feet to still have a shot at postseason. Which, I mean, I'm a little biased, so like, no, I'm not even, I can't even really say that I'm happy about that, because I do really love Hex Girls, and I do also like want to see them succeed. So I'm like, I don't want to say that I'm happy about their loss, meaning Outlaw still has a chance, because I don't want them to lose.
Right. Well, and I think though
I'm gonna roll all that back.
it's one of those things though where it's at least, you know, it's good news for Hex Girls knowing that, yeah, you took the L today, but because Outlaws did, you really haven't lost any ground as far as the playoff ring. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a nice little like moral victory.
Good, a nice, still like a good morale boost for Hex Girls, knowing that they still have a chance here despite this loss. And maybe a good morale boost for other teams who might be kind of questioning their position or their chances for a postseason, especially because we've had 2 teams actually drop. So quite a few teams are looking at maybe a little bit of a more lenient schedule. We do have somebody in the interrogation room. Sorry to keep you waiting while we speculate on season ratings right now. How are you doing today?
I'm good. It was a really good game. I think Hextals did a great job, but I mean, our killers played very well. I played very well, but they also played very well as well. Our survivors played really well in the Twins game and stuff like that. It was a great game all around.
I mean, that's got to feel like a nice bounce back after probably a result that you guys weren't the happiest about in week 6 with the loss to Monarchy, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that was kind of devastating, but we kind of like scrimmed some more, you know. We've really put our mind to it, you know, and we lost one of our best players, Joy King, recently, so you know, we've been really trying to get better and better without him, and I think we've done a great job so far.
Absolutely. You guys definitely have shown that you've been putting in the work to kind of make up for some of the obstacles that have popped up for you guys.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like, it was a good game all around, I think. I mean, yeah.
Oh yeah, very, very exciting to watch. So, you played that first game. How did you feel going into that match? Did you feel any sort of pressure going up against the Hex Girl survivors there, or were you comfortable in your pick of Killer?
For my pick of Killer, I'm actually I've played a bunch of Spirit and public matches and stuff like that, and I've scrimmed Spirit a bunch with my past teams on Forgotten. So, I mean, I've scrimmed with her a lot, and you know, I've practiced her a lot. I know a lot about her mechanics and stuff. So, I mean, like, I was kind of confident with it, and I think overall, like, the game went well for me, and they played well as well.
Absolutely. That was a very, very strong Spirit game. You had
Yeah.
some really good mind games going in there.
Yeah, I believe the Nia missed her DS, so that was kind of tragic, but yeah. I think if she would have hit that game would have gotten a little bit different.
So there was a DS there. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not too sure, but I think it was like a Deli DS.
I wasn't sure if it was that, or we were trying to figure out, because I think that the timing was getting relatively close to where it might have been ran out. That's why we weren't sure.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I think they missed it. I'm not actually particularly sure. But yeah, it was overall a really good match, and I think they played very well.
I just realized I had you frozen. I'm sorry, Shep.
That's all right. So did you play in both Survivor rounds as well?
No, I only played the Spirit match.
Oh, okay. My bad.
But, yeah, fine. Our Survivors did a really good job though. Like, during that Twins match, they had some really good comms going on.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. How were the comms, especially going into that Spirit match? You guys played that very cleanly.
Yeah, my team captain Wash kinda. He offered some good game sense for me, but I was pretty good without it for the most part. But he did offer some good tips. And during the Survivor matches, they had some like really packed comms, and it was really interesting to hear all the Twins comms, because during a Twins game, you gotta be really coordinated and stuff like that, especially when they have like force pennants and stuff like that.
So knowing that you came out on the Spirit, I've got to ask, because we've seen Spirit really brought out selectively here. We saw you were able to, have a pretty strong performance today. What's your thoughts on where does she kind of sit after the nerf? Is she still kind of like top 3, or do you feel like she's kind of fallen back into more of like maybe the first 3 after the top 3 as far as like in most like tier list sort of deal?
I think she's still top 3, probably in 3rd place now. I think a Blight. I think Blight is probably better at the moment, but I mean, she still can be pretty strong. But against the really good survivors who are on their A game, it's pretty difficult.
Right.
And like Blight, with like double speed and compound and stuff like that on Suffocation Pit, it's really nice.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything you would like to say to Hex Girls or to the fans of Six or the fans of Vigos?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I have a great friend on Hex Girls, Gramps TF2. He's a really good player. He's a really good huntress. Shout out to Gramps and all the fans of Six. Apparently, someone was watching with their family. They were watching a Six game with their whole entire family there.
That's dope.
Shout out to those people.
That's so cute.
I know, right? So yeah, that was really good. Thank you guys for having me do the interview. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you so much for
appreciate you coming and kicking us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good rest of your end of the stream or whatever, you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll catch you next year.
Gotcha. Oh my God, it's starting.
I got to do it first one of the
I thought
year.
I had a whole day of that from you guys, but no.
I love it. I love it. So that is going to wrap up our week, though. That wraps down week 7, meaning that we still have 5 weeks left, but that's crazy. It means basically a month left in the season, and we'll be moving into playoffs. That's crazy.
Yeah, we have we're kind of getting down to the wire here now. Like to talk about, we are officially way past our halfway point. And now this is gonna kind of be where we start seeing probably a lot of the really big plays from our teams trying to make a bid for postseason. Because we kind of know where everyone stands at this point, and we kind of know what needs to happen for certain teams to make it further.
Yeah, and we know that quite a few teams have a lot of S tier picks left as well, which is nice. Of course, we have gotten rid of some of our off-brand spare maps. McMillan is hopefully still going to be in play, right? Still going to be, which is nice for the S tier killers, I got to say. Like, I feel like a lot of your McMillan maps you talk about are kind of staples in the competitive scene. So to have them available heading down the stretch with a lot of S tier picks, things are going to get interesting.
Absolutely. I also think because we have the McMillan maps back, thank God, we're going to see a lot of interesting, higher A tier killers come out because the McMillan maps are really friendly to a wide variety of killers. So I think we're going to see some really interesting, intense gameplay from a lot of different avenues here.
But before we get out of here, can we do the thing?
I do want to make a statement, though, however, since we were talking about maps. We will actually be losing the Coldwind farm maps due to reports of desync issues on the maps. We've been talking to the other leagues and are kind of talking about maybe shelving those maps for now because the desync issues are actually pretty gnarly from the few videos I've seen of it. I'm not really handling that right now, so I've only seen a little bit, but from what I've seen, it's been pretty nasty. So we are actually going to be losing the Coldwind maps for a little bit there, potentially for the rest of our season.
I guess probably the best place to keep up with news about that would that be Discord or social media? Both?
All of the above, both. Whatever you frequent the most. If you guys want to keep up to date with what's going on with us, please make sure you join our Discord. You can type !Discord in chat to find that link, or follow us on any of our social media. We are Vigos Court literally everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So that's where you guys can follow us to get updates on what's going on with our games, our maps, our scheduling, as well as our rewards at the end of the week. We do rewards every week for our MVPs from each division. And for our killer and survivor squad. So make sure you guys are following us on social media. If you aren't already, I would really appreciate it. We also have a YouTube that is Vigos Court if you want to watch games from earlier in the season. Maybe do some VOD review with your teams, or kind of just like see what other people are doing in the comp scene for games that you may have missed out on. But I will move on to the next part of this, which is saying that Six has been convicted of murder.
All right, and that is going to wrap things up for us. You guys be safe if y'all are going to be going out and celebrating with your friends, whether it is later today or tomorrow, wherever you're at in this beautiful sphere we call Earth. Make sure that you remember, even though it is awesome to celebrate another year around the sun, make sure that you put yourself in a situation to make it around the sun for another one. Don't do anything stupid, all right?
Yep. Please be safe out there. We love you guys so much. From our family here at Vigos to yours. Happy New Year's, you guys. We did it. We made it.
All right, we'll catch y'all next year. Peace.
We'll see you guys next year. Love you guys. Bye. Mwah. Be safe.